Welcome to the Explainer. We're about to dive into a conflict that did way more than just decide who got to wear the crown. It literally reshaped an entire country. We're talking, of course, about the Wars of the Roses. So what does happen when a kingdom declares war on itself? Let's get into it. We're going to look at how this absolutely brutal 30-year civil war didn't just tear England apart, it actually forged a whole new nation right from the ashes. Okay, so where does a story like this even begin? Well, it's not with one single moment. Think of it more like a kingdom that was, fundamentally sick. The whole political system was just unwell, and the symptoms, they were about to get deadly. And right at the heart of all this chaos, you've got two rival branches of the exact same family. On one side, you have the ruling House of Lancaster, the Red Rose, and on the other, the super ambitious House of York, the White Rose. They both wanted the same thing, the throne. And that, right there, set the stage for one of the biggest, bloodiest family feuds in history. But here's the thing. It wasn't just a family spat. Not even close. It was a total perfect storm. I mean, you've got a really weak king, Henry VI, who can't control anybody. Then you have these incredibly powerful nobles, lords, who were so rich and mighty they had their own private armies. And to top it all off, the whole country was humiliated after losing a major war in France and was basically broke. The entire system was like a house of cards, just waiting for a breeze to knock it all down. So, with the kingdom this sick, a fever was bound to break. And that fever was war. But you have to understand, this wasn't a war that involved everyone, not like we might think of war today. This was something different. It was a war of the ruling class, and it was deeply, deeply personal. And for the next 30 years, it was just chaos. A total back and forth. The crown flipped from one side to the other. You might win a huge battle and think you're secure, but nope, victory was always temporary. For 3 decades, nobody, and I mean nobody, could feel like their power was safe. And this quote really nails it. This wasn't about England fighting France or some foreign enemy. This was personal. This was the powerful families of England fighting each other. It was a war fought by the nobles, using their private armies. It was this insane power struggle where the ruling class basically turned on itself. They were the ones who started it, and ultimately they were the main ones who died in it. So all this chaos, all this bloodshed, it all comes to a head. It reaches this violent climax with one single person, a guy who has become the absolute poster child for that old medieval way of ruling. King Richard III. See, you have to get your head around this medieval system. It's not like today. The king wasn't this all-powerful dictator. Not at all. His power was completely dependent on the loyalty of a handful of super powerful nobles. It was a balancing act. And if one of those nobles got too powerful, think of the famous Warwick the Kingmaker, he could literally decide, you know what? I don't like this king. Let's get a new one. And he could actually do it. So that system, that whole way of doing things, is exactly what was put to the ultimate test in 1485, the final gamble. You have Richard III, the perfect example of this old-school kind of king, riding out onto the battlefield at Bosworth Field to face down a challenger who is about to change the entire game. And what happened on that battlefield? Wow. Its bloody end wasn't just the death of a king. It was the birth of a totally new England. And it was all thanks to the guy who won, a relative unknown named Henry Tudor. Now this is the really clever part. Henry Tudor, now King Henry VII, didn't just win the battle. He won the peace that came after. He had a playbook. First, he united the warring houses by marrying Elizabeth of York, literally merging the red and white roses. Smart. Then, he took away the nobles' toys. He outlawed their private armies, the very things that caused all the chaos. And finally, he centralized control, creating a new government that was loyal only to him, not to some local lord. He basically dismantled the entire system piece by piece. And you can't overstate how huge this was. The age of the super powerful, overmighty noble was just over. And the age of a strong, centralized state had begun. This was a radical shift, the real end of medieval England. Okay, so let's zoom out. Why are we talking about this? Why does a war from over 500 years ago matter to us? Well, because it's this incredible, stark example of how a nation can be totally reborn, but only after going through an unbelievably violent crisis. And when we talk about cost, I mean, the price of this new era was just staggering. Look at this number. More than half of England's top-tier nobility, the dukes, the earls, were killed or executed during these wars. The very people who started the conflict literally wiped themselves off the map. And this chart shows you the so what of all this. Before the wars, power was spread out among all these nobles. It was high for them, low for the king. But after 1485, it completely flips. Power gets sucked away from the nobles and concentrated in one place, the crown. This wasn't a temporary fix. This was a permanent power shift that would define English and even world history for centuries to come. So that's the final question we're left with, isn't it? The medieval world literally burned itself to the ground.